What's up guys, XG7 here, and I'm bringing you an unscheduled video. I was working on some AMD versus Intel stuff. Don't look at those numbers, super secret. But we decided to interrupt this video to bring you this video. Well, that video to bring you this video. So apparently it's been kind of making the rounds that Corsair Waterblocks leak. And specifically the GPU blocks, because of a video someone put up online, and my Twitter blew up and my emails blew up, and people asking me, did I know about this problem? And so I decided to go ahead and investigate this one for myself, because I do happen to have two XG7 Waterblocks laying around, and I'll see whether or not these have the same issue. You know what guys, I got new merch. It's available now, crowdme.com/JC-Sense. We got zip-up hoodies, we got tri-blend, we got a new logo. I digress, since 2012, it's a digress logo. You guys have been asking for that. Anyway, we got all kinds of stuff. Zip-up hoodies, beanies, polos. Don't take my word for it, because obviously I can't do this ad. So just look in the description below and you guys will find the link. Thanks. So to understand the issue, this tech channel, Major Hardware, I'll be honest, I have no idea who he is. I've never seen his content. I don't know his water cooling knowledge. I don't know his technical knowledge. So a caveat there, I have no idea who this guy is and what his expertise level is. But he says that this is a well, there's a map, I don't know. He says this is a follow-up to an issue of his XG7 Waterblocks, and that's a 2080 Ti block, which are the same ones that we have. We have 2080 and 2080 Ti. That apparently when you fill it up, let me find the part. When you fill it up right here and you got water going through it, everything's normal. But what he's gonna do is he's gonna put a little bit of lateral force on this terminal. And the way these terminals work, it's very similar, and I'll show you this actually on the block itself. It's very similar to how the EK Waterblocks terminal work, where it's just a piece of plastic or Delrin or palm or whatever material the manufacturer uses, with ports drilled into it that then have screws that go down through there, mating it to the edge, this edge of the block right there. And then you have O-rings in between those materials to keep any water from getting out. Now I can tell you right now that this piece up here is very plasticky. I do not know what kind of plastic they're using. I don't believe it to be an acetal or a palm type material. It seems cheaper than that. But what he's gonna show you right now is with it running, as he puts a little bit of lateral force on it, a gap forms right there, and the water starts leaking out, and it's gonna even start squirting out violently because the pump is running, as you can see. One of the reasons why it's pushing out so violently too is he doesn't have a radiator in there. It's just pump, reservoir to block, which is exactly how we're gonna do it when we test right now. But there's no extra reduction of flow because of the radiator fins and stuff. So it probably in a normal scenario would be more of a dribble than this hard squirt. But I digress. So as you can see right there, it's a bit of a mess. Now it doesn't look like he's moving it much. Yeah, so you can see right there on the edge, the way it's coming in, because it's drilled through right there, screw right there, and a screw right there. But what could be somewhat of a potential design flaw, and this is, if there's a flaw where I feel it would be, and I don't know yet, I haven't tested these yet, there's no screw in the middle. So the EK blocks have, I believe, 3 screws, one on either end and one in the middle. That way you have even force on either side of the O-ring. So if there's an issue here, based on where it's leaking, I feel like it's because it needs something holding it down right there. You can see there's plenty of threads pulling the outsides down. But if he starts to bow it like that, and it's plastic, and it has any sort of play, depending on how thin or thick those O-rings are, that's how you're getting that leak right there. Now I also can't see how hard he's pulling on it. I have a hard time believing that having the block in a system normally with just tubes run is going to put enough force on that to tweak that O-ring, unless there's a design flaw or an assembly issue with the block. So that's the problem. That's what we're going to investigate right now. Now, 2 things that I want to get out of the way before I even start. One, the blocks that I have right here, this is from the very first run of XG products that Corsair came out with. We're talking, not Computex, CES 2019. So it's been more than a year that these have come out and that we've had them. The other thing is going to be, I cannot say if there's been any revisions or changes in the design since then. Now I have reached out to Corsair prior to making this video and made them aware, like, hey, I'm making this video. Is there anything that we need to know in terms of manufacturing changes that have taken place? Unfortunately, we're in the very early stages of them investigating this themselves, but I can tell you they do know about the problem. The second thing is that, full disclosure, yes, Corsair is a sponsor of the channel. However, I will tell you right now exactly what I told them. My loyalty is to my viewer. My viewer is what gives me a career, not my sponsors. So if there's any concern on your end that I'm somehow gonna try and downplay this or cover this up for them, then you'd be mistaken. And I told them the same thing. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna take my blocks, set it up exactly as he did, pump reservoir tubes right to the GPU, and we're gonna run the same test with both blocks. I'm gonna kind of tweak on it and such, and see if mine leaks or not. So with all that out of the way, let's get to it. Now there's actually one difference in my setup from his, even though this is the exact same 2080 Ti block. He's got the inlet coming in here and going out there. Mine's gonna be coming in here and going out there, but it doesn't make a difference. If you can see right here, the way it's screwed in, screw hole there, nothing in the middle. Now if I kind of start tweaking on this a little bit, it's probably really hard to see, but as soon as I push down on the fittings, let's do it sideways. So as I push down, you see it's not moving much. You really got to push. What I am noticing though, and the camera may not even pick this up, is it does seem to bow when you do that. And it puts a little bit of an arc right in the center. See it moving there? Yeah, it's not much, but it doesn't take much. The O-rings on this thing are really small. Now I would take it apart and show you the O-rings, but then it would be tampered with at that point and not out of the box as it came to me, which would flaw our test. So what we're gonna do right now is we're just gonna go ahead and put some coolant in it. It's actually just blue distilled water. Hopefully it doesn't leak. This is the one we blew up, if you remember. If you don't remember, this is what happened to this. Holy sh**, that's at 140 PSI. Oh, ah! So I'm gonna start by just putting a little bit of downward pressure on this. Oh, and there it goes. So I didn't have to do much, and it's leaking right from the center, just like I said. Right here, watch right there. See, it comes out of the middle. Woo!
Whoa! You missed the camera, right?
Yeah. Look how far that goes. Achoo! 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 Okay, I mean, this is not a laughing matter, guys. I'm not even gonna test the other one. All right, so what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna take this apart. I'm gonna show you guys the construction, where I think the design improvement could be on this. It didn't take much for me to watch his video and figure out exactly where it's leaking before I even did mine. But to take it apart, I need my trusty, dandy, handy iFixit kit. Hey, Father's Day is coming up. I got my first one Father's Day 3 years ago. It was the best Father's Day gift I've ever had. If you're watching this, send this to your wife, because we know the wife's not watching, and say, I want an iFixit kit for Father's Day. Link is in the description below. Okay, moving forward. Okay, look, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. I already told you guys where I stand on my loyalty. It's to the audience, not to the sponsor. I don't feel under any normal use case this would happen to you. Let me tell you why. The amount of force which you cannot see that I'm having to put on this is lateral, okay? So it's not up and down as much as it's like this. So up and down force like that, I feel like if I was to just push on it or push on it would not get me that same result. And we'll test it again. I'll put water back in it in a second. It is rotational like this that's causing it, very torqued. I don't believe soft tubing, which will clamp way harder than hard tubing. Ask me how I know, once again, regarding that explosion we showed you earlier. Yeah, the tubes stretched before they let go. The amount of force you'd have to be pulling on this with soft tubing is way greater than I feel that the soft tubing itself would be able to actually do. Hard tubing actually holds less because it'll slide out of the O-ring long before it ever starts to pull the part apart. So I don't think people using these right now, if you've got one in your system and it's not leaking, I don't think you honestly have anything to worry about. I don't think it's gonna leak on you. We've had one sitting, not being used every day, but still full of water over there. The Dark Knight build, it never leaked on us when we were doing our video and such about that. Again, not making excuses for the brand. I'm talking to the person who has this block in their system now and might be panicking a little bit. I do not feel you have anything to panic over. So this metal piece right here is nothing more than a decorative trim piece, just like on their old Dominator memory. So if I take this off, which is on there pretty good, you can see it's just a decorative piece. It does nothing for rigidity. Now you can see what I mean by it's very, very plasticky. It's definitely not a palm type material. I actually feel like if they used a palm type material, it wouldn't do this. Because palm, it's very soft, it seals really good, and it doesn't flex very much. Standard plastic flexes a lot. Now that wasn't very tight. So I'm already wondering if maybe these are not assembled tight enough from the factory. Let me see if there's, oh yeah, there was a lot of room left to tighten that. So this is actually, and I'm not saying anything about brands, copying brands, but this is basically exactly how the EK is when it comes to mounting like this. You've got these two very tiny O-rings. They do not really stick up past that surface very much. So all it takes is just a little bit of boink, and you get the leak right there because it's only got force holding it down on the outsides. So I feel like had they separated this a tiny bit and had something holding it down in the middle, it would have been a lot better. So I feel like this is something EK Waterblock has already discovered, because if you look, screw there, screw there, screw there. So what I'm gonna do right now, at the risk of cracking the acrylic, and I think that's part of the reason why they don't tighten these down so much, is I'm gonna just give it a real good turn there, and a real good turn there. The common question is, when stuff like this happens, why didn't you guys catch this in testing? First of all, we are not QA quality assurance testing. We're testing how are the temperatures? How is the fitment when you put it on? You know, how does it look? Does it like cause all sorts of card sag and that sort of stuff? We're not sitting here going, is there a flaw if I do this really odd test of twisting it this way that would never be a part of like a general use case scenario? Like I told you guys in the previous video, I used to work in QA, QC, or quality assurance, quality check in software. My job was to test weird things that were outliers, but I never really thought to take a fitting like this and just start yanking on it like that, going, does it leak? But I think it's pretty obvious without that inclusion of the third screw right there, that this one's always gonna do it when you start tweaking on it like that. I have had instances where fittings have leaked and have been incompatible with certain blocks and stuff, like Post Malone build specifically. Like, oh, is that, okay, I was like, did it squirt? I've had like fittings not fit flush or O-rings fit tight on various new blocks that were specifically fitting related, but not like terminal related like this. Look at that. I'm pinching the tubes long before I'm getting it to leak.
Oh, there it is. You got a drop.
See how hard I was having to pull on it though? Look, my recommendation at the end of the day, if this concerns you, wait, don't buy it. See how Corsair responds. See if they come up with a revised block. If you wait for that route though, I can tell you right now, it's gonna be a while, because this requires a complete redesign and a retooling. All right, so I decided the only way to be, thorough in my testing is to see whether or not another water block with a similar type design does the same thing. And I can tell you right now, the EK is not gonna do it. I've not tested this yet. I'm putting my reputation on the fact that it's not gonna do it for two reasons. The 3 screws, and it's using acetal, which is a much better material for this and a lot beefier of it. Yeah, that's not, jeez, I'm gonna spill that.
Spilled the res.
Yeah, that's not. Okay, so at the risk of maybe damaging the threads on this, if I do it any harder, there's no movement on that terminal because the sucker's in there. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get off this video. I'm gonna get back on the phone with Corsair and I'm gonna tell them my findings, and I'm gonna give them 2 suggestions on how I think they can improve this design. One involves a redesign and one involves a potential quick fix that they can test. I think the short-term solution to fixing the blocks that are already manufactured, I don't know how they're gonna do customer support if someone's concerned about this. I have no idea how they plan on retroactively supporting this. They could potentially manufacture these O-rings a little bit thicker, just a little bit. That way they're compressing down more and giving you more surface area in terms of sealing than it moving a fraction of a millimeter and breaking that seal. So having it be a little bit thicker O-ring would potentially solve that. I don't have other O-rings that I can put in there to test. I don't make O-rings. The other thing I've already said a million times, they need to add the third screw down the middle, which means a complete terminal / block redesign, because they're going to have to expand it and move the ports apart slightly because of the fact that they are just too close together. You can see how the EK is slightly wider. That's because they had to account for that screw. So they would not be able to just add one right there. It's just there wouldn't be enough plastic material at that point to keep it from breaking if they were to try and just add one there. Not to mention they have to redesign this piece anyway. This is unfortunately the result of when you kind of cheap out on some components and go cheap plastic. I wonder, actually, if they were to manufacture that terminal out of POM or acetal. They're two different types of material, I know, but they're the two materials that people have used over the years for water cooling, POM and acetal. I kind of wonder if they manufactured one out of acetal, if it would have less flex, which would then allow it to stay sealed in that circumstance. So maybe they should try that. Those are 3 suggestions. Anyway, I'm gonna get on the phone with them and tell them that now, that way they can't come out with that later and be like, look, we fixed it. I'm like, wait, I came up with that idea, because I want the credit, damn it, if I fixed this. All right, a lot of you guys were like, Jay, why aren't you talking about this? Because we didn't know. Like I already said, this isn't the kind of thing we test for, but I can tell you every time something like this slips by and then becomes mainstream media, or in this case, B-stream Reddit news, it's something that we'll keep in mind in the future and things that we'll check. But there you go, guys. Just a quick video showing our findings. Yes, it leaked. I know why it's leaking, and I hope they address it. Well, not this one. This is the good one. This guy. This guy. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. And as always, we'll see you in the next one. Make sure you stay tuned. Like I said, it's AMD versus Intel on some gaming and multi-threading performance at a really good price point.